Hello and welcome. It's a good day to be on the farm. My name is Chuck, and this is Somerset Farms, episode 9. And in the last episode, we bought this field 33, which adjoined to field 34 that we had bought the previous episode. We cultivated field 34, and we plowed field 33. Both of these have insane yield potentials on them. Oh, I did not lift up my plow. That's terrible. Number one, you don't want to turn with a plow. Number two, you don't want to drag a plow sideways across the field you've already plowed. Anyway, I had just finished plowing this field, and the rain was starting, and I just had to clean up a couple edges that the worker left, but I wanted to go ahead and show you that it was raining like it said, and that means it's getting dark, and there's not a whole lot else we can do today anyway, so I think it's time to go run back and park this equipment up. If we can make this turn successfully. And then we will go ahead and pass time for a little while. What is happening? Why is this? It's like I'm driving on the edge because I'm trying to make room for the plow, but that's driving the end of the plow into the ground. Really wish this had a... Oh, guys, look at that. I can fold the plow so it's straight behind me. That would have been super helpful. Well, whoops, you learn something new every day. So don't do as I do and drive like an idiot with my plow still left in the ground, or with my plow not folded between these brick walls. And yeah. So anyway, good to know we can do that with this plow, and we have done that now, and that looks much better, and it makes it much easier to get down these narrow roads. So anyway, here we're coming back to the farmstead. We just passed our field 36, which is of course planted with canola. We bought that already planted, and we went ahead and sprayed it, and we are now just waiting to harvest that. And we fertilized that one as well, I believe. So we've got 2 fields of canola ready to go. 2 other fields that have now been plowed, and 1 field that has been cultivated. So we've got 34 and 35 over there. And then we've got this field 18, which we're going to drive right past here. In just a second, past these houses. And we're just going to leave the tractor with the cultivator sitting out there, because we're going to start cultivating that one. There you can see it kind of off in the distance between the trees. That's not a great view. So that's an option, or that's something we're going to be doing here over the winter. And then this is my other field of canola that we've planted, field 15. But we're getting this farm to be about the size that I want it to be. We have theoretically 5 fields now. 2 of them are planted, 3 we're preparing to plant in the spring. I think that's about the right size for what I want this farm to be. Now some of these fields are pretty small. Did I shut this off? No, I didn't. Don't want that to run all night. And then here's our tiny little house that we live in. So we can just plop this thing down, close that door, and do whatever we need to do to sleep through the rest of this rain. So we're just going to go to November right now and see what's going on. Probably get cultivating, heading on that field 18. We'll probably do what we did when we plowed it, which is square it off, let the worker finish that off, as we look at some other equipment and decide what we want to get planted here in the spring. And then we're just going to skip forward a bunch of days. So, well, that folded that up. And here we are heading outside. So this field still looks great. pH value is a little low, but nitrogen is perfect. So perfectly fertilized. Just needs maybe a little bit more lime in the next season. Let's go ahead and run this back to our yard and park it up. And you can see the grass here. Maybe you can't see how it's flattened there. This is where I wanted to make a cutaway from the bushes between field 18 and field 15 and the house. So yes, I backed that plow up through the bushes, but the bushes aren't supposed to be there. I tried to remove them and I just wasn't able to. So I'm just kind of treating that hedge like it doesn't exist and using that as a pull through between the two different fields, because I think that's perfectly reasonable. And if I had a farm that had two fields connected like that, I would certainly want a way to get between them without driving all the way around. So let's see, get this lined up here. And then we'll go ahead and drop this off. Oh, I can't drop it off folded, so I'll have to unfold it. And then drop that there. Alright, so this is our big tractor. I don't necessarily want to use this one to just drive everything around, but we did need it for that plow, so we're going to bring it in here and just park it up next to our other. Is this the other case, or is this the McCormick? Let's hop out. So you're our case Magnum. You are our case Maximum, right? Maximum 115, Magnum 340. I need to turn these lights off. And our McCormick is sitting over there with the cultivator right now. So let's do a couple of things. Number one, actually, let's leave these here. Let's come over here and get this McCormick started. You can see our field 36 there across the highway. It is also looking pretty good. I don't have too terribly many concerns about that one being ready to go here shortly. We're going to get the McCormick going on cultivating here. I'm going to run a strip down, and then we're going to finish off these corners. Or maybe we'll just run a strip down and let the worker get started. Yeah, why don't we just do that? You've seen me cultivate before. Let's just get this squared away. We'll come back and fix the edges in the end, rather than here in the beginning. So let's go back to, well, this is actually a good view. So we had tried to turn around in here, and we unfortunately just weren't able to, with the harvester, get this header trailer turned around. So I'm going to take the little case, save some hours on our big one. And we're going to go ahead and just see if we can get that harvester trailer unstuck while that cultivation is beginning, while Fred is busy doing his work on our field for us. Harvester was just a little too wide to try to get this out of here. So I want to see if I can get this turned around. If not, we're going to have to reset it to the shop and go get it from down there. But yeah, we got it pretty good and stuck. And I'm not 100% sure this is the right trailer for this header. Oh, but I think we got it. Alright, let's turn around and see if we can get this parked in a better spot. Here's a straighter spot. Yeah, we'll just put it back here. We got plenty of room in the shed, so don't have to be too judicious about that, but that's way better because now we can back up with the harvester and just grab it and go, and we're not hitting the back here. And maybe it did snap on originally when I put it on there. This is just too long for this. I mean, actually, let's just take a look. So in our garage, oh, we should have checked the sales yesterday. Manure, slurry, a nice big baler. That's a really good deal. And a bale wrapper, and then a pickup truck. Well, if I wanted to do grass care, this would be the time. But I don't think that I do. We'll think about that. Anyway, in our garage, so we've got our harvester is our Rolstamash. I'm not sure how to say that. Rostamash Nova 330. And if you go to the combinations, obviously here is, oh, it can have a corn header. That's nice to know. But we have the PowerStream 500. So let's go ahead and select that one and get to the details there. Well, let's just go over here. So on our headers, the recommended bale header trailer, bale is not the word, header trailer would be this one, the N40B, and we have the N40BX. I don't know what the difference is on those. Let's see what this combination does. And it's for the case 25 footer, 25 footer, and seven point five. So it's for these that are 7.5 meters wide, where our header is only 5 meters wide. So that X means we have the wrong one, which is why it wasn't snapping together and it was getting stuck. So either at some point in time we need to get the correct trailer for this, and or maybe keep that trailer and just get a bigger header because we're going to trade up for a bigger harvester. So anyway, those are certainly options for us that I wanted to talk about. So let's take this over since we don't have to reset it. I want to take a look at those other two fields. We're cultivating 2 today, and actually let's look at, I know I'm flipping around a lot of screens, but we have our soil information here for 33. It needs a little bit of lime, but a lot of nitrogen, and we don't have our soil information for 34. So we're going to select that. I'm sure it's going to be similar, but we're going to go ahead and purchase that soil information for 1,200 bucks. And now it's the same, 33, 34. It's mainly loam, which is good, and a little bit of sandy loam up in the corner, but that's not bad. But this loam strip that kind of runs through all our fields, you can see we're kind of following it over here and then over into 33 and 34. This is what's getting us that excellent yield bonus. So I wonder if I can get back to the screen that tells me that. So let's unselect it. So yeah, we're 58% yield percentage here. Nope. If we unselect it, 58, 58, 58. That's just our environmental score. Where's the one that has the yield percentage? I think it's maybe this one. So if I look at, yeah, there we go. 119% expected yield, 122%, 110. That's that loam strip that's running through this part of the field. It also goes through 18, but it drops off to 105 there. And we got 108 down here for our field 15. But we're kind of following this strip of good soil through the map, which is actually kind of an interesting way to do it. Because had we went south, this one's at 91%. This one's at 96. This one's at 89. It's not good soil down here, so it didn't make sense for us to head south. 16 would have been fine. It's all sandy loam, but at least we would be at 98. And then this, if we go too far north and we hit this negative 79, I really wanted these soybeans in the beginning, but it just not for that loamy sand and the 79% yield potential. So we found kind of a nice band of good soil here, which I enjoy. So that's helping us out. But let's go look at those other two fields. Actually, what is the horsepower requirement for our fertilizer spreader? Nope, that's our sprayer. Spreader's here. I don't think it takes much at all. Doesn't even give a horsepower requirement, as long as we can pick it up, I think. Which is weird. It should have a horsepower requirement. But I'm not seeing one. Anyway, I think this case can certainly handle the fertilizer spreader. So let's maybe just take this over there and spread some fertilizer on those other two fields while we're letting 18 get cultivated. And then we'll come back and finish up the cultivation on 18, and then we can skip to probably March. And we've got some fertilizer in here, but that should be hopefully enough. These fields are pretty small. So we're going to run out here, see how this guy is doing on 18. Looks to be going just fine. So we'll leave him be, and we'll take the long way out here. And running back over to 34 and 35 are in two new fields here. So this is the soybean field that I really liked up here on the right, but not at that 79% expected yield. So that would have been a lot of work for not as much of a return as we were hoping for. So our farm looks a little funny on the map, which I'm coming to grips with, but I think we're going to get obviously a much better crop off of it because we're paying attention to the soil more than we are to the location of the fields, because in this game we can do that. Obviously, if you had just bought a plot of land and then did the soil sampling, you're kind of stuck with it. With what you got, you just got to do the best you can with the soil types. Oh, ouch, caught the wall there. But since we have the availability to make choices like that in this, because okay, I have got to stop looking at the fields when I'm driving. I'm just running into walls left and right. I apologize for my terrible driving. I'm trying to talk and look at fields to see what's going on there and navigate to where I need to be, and that is just 2 or 3 too many things for me to be doing at once. Alright, so here is our field 34. Let's go down to this and go over to the nitrogen. We're not going to spread lime right now. In fact, I don't think we have a lime spreader, so that'll be something we'll have to address in the spring, maybe February, depending on the snow. But we'll go ahead and just start spreading this, and you can see on the mini map we're pretty much just going to annihilate this thing in 1 or 2 passes. And I'm probably a little bit farther to the right than I need to be. Looks like we're covering, and we'd be covering pretty much the whole road over here. I just wanted to make sure we covered it, but we were going to need 2 passes anyway, so might as well make the 2 passes like this. And worker C is done. So we'll come down here, finish off this field. And normally I would spread the fertilizer after we've planted, but I don't think there's any harm in spreading fertilizer before you plant like this and just prepping the field. And we just don't have a whole lot else to do right now. So I thought this might be a better way to get started, is just by getting these fields prepped. And I think that makes sense to me. If you're just going to go ahead and add all the nitrogen you need to the field early, then it's going to be ready when you plant it, and that crop is immediately going to already have the nutrients it needs to germinate. So I think there's maybe some value in fertilizing the soil before you plant it, but typically I've always fertilized it after. So if you guys know the answer to that, or if you guys have maybe a way that you normally do it, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how other people kind of handle that in this game, and if that's something you've thought about or found a better way to do. I would love to know. Let's come back over here and look at our cultivated status. Yeah, we did a great job over here. We just need to go fix this one side. So get this cultivated. Oh, and look, more rain in November. So it's going to be a rainy winter, and that is fine. We don't have a whole lot going on, so it's not actually impacting us, and it's probably good for our crops. So we'll let that be what it needs to be. Not that we could do anything about it anyway. And I'm not even getting all the way over. Let me just come back and square this up. This 3-meter cultivator is giving me fits. Not because it's not working right, it's user error 100%, but I'm just used to using it a little bit wider, and when I was doing that field 34, I was missing tiny little strips between the rows, so I ended up having to come back and do extra rows because I just was trying to stretch that 3 meters out as much as I could, and not overlapping enough. So we're going to make sure we get every little bit of this on this corner, like so. And we'll run down to the other end and get that other corner too. So this also has a little bit of curve in this edge of the field, a little contact lens concaveness. But that makes the field interesting to me. So I like when fields do that a little bit, and I think I've said this in practically every episode of this series, but that's what I like about this map is these abnormal field shapes make it just a little bit more interesting and a little bit more realistic. Like in Nebraska where I live, or in Iowa where I grew up, there's no square fields. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but most of the fields that I see are smaller and funny shaped like this and not laid out on a map perfectly. So you would have to just kind of figure out how to make that work, just like I have to figure it out when I'm mowing my lawn. So, all right, that is cultivated. Now we can bring this cultivator down there to the other field that we plowed. We're going to go ahead and fertilize that one before we cultivate it. But then we'll have 3 fields ready to be planted here in the spring when we get there. So just turn headlights on for this one. And this is the proper way to get in and out of this little development. Is to go through those houses, and that's the only entrance to field 18, which I still do like as a long narrow field, but it's just not. I wish there was more access to it than that, which is why I did that thing with the hedges, where I tried to spray paint out the hedges and make a little pull through next to the tiny house that we're living in, but unfortunately it didn't work. So I'm still going to use that other entrance that I wanted to make, even though I technically didn't get to make it the way that I would have liked to. But I think that's okay, because that is just going to have to be okay, because I'm not going to drive around all the equipment. We did get the harvester down between those houses the first time that we took it down there, but then I decided I didn't want to mess with it anymore, so we pulled it out through the bushes, and that's just fine. Alright, so it's down here where there's this kind of straight fence on this embankment with these pine trees, and then it turns down here. So we'll go ahead and make that kind of sharp turn back up here, and I want to put the cultivator right here on the edge of the field for a second while we get this fertilized first, and then we'll get busy cultivating it here in a second. So let me flip back to this. I guess I didn't have to park this up if I knew I was going to come fertilize it. I thought maybe I was going to cultivate it first and then come fertilize it, but I think I'd rather fertilize it now, get it out of here, and then park this up and then come back and cultivate it. That way I don't have too much equipment sitting down here over the winter. So I'm just going to, again, cut through my own bushes, because I think that is just the best way to do that, instead of driving all the way around trying to find an entrance. If I owned these fields, there would be a more efficient entrance. So, and I do own these fields, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, and this should be real easy, 2 strips with this wide spreader. And again, we're going about 260 degrees. We're about 10 degrees off being square, which was fine for running it ourselves, but as soon as I tried to hire a worker, that messed it up, and I had to fix the 2 triangles that he left on the other ends of the field. But next time we run something that's not the plow, like the cultivator, I'm going to do it at the 260 angle, and I'm going to do it manually rather than hiring the worker, because it'll be the last piece of farming that we need to do before we can fast forward into year 2. So hope you guys are liking this series. I'm liking the farm setup. I'm really liking the fields that we own now because of those yield potentials. I think we made great choices. And we're just going to see how the crops shape up on those when we start getting our harvest data in the spring and summer of next year. So let me go back to here. So now our nitrogen levels are great on everything but field 18, which actually we could come and run 1 strip on when we're taking this back. We can run some lime on some of these fields. Now, we didn't lime any of the fields because we had already planted, and we don't want to lime after we plant on 36 and 15. So we might just wait, get a lime spreader next season, and then spread all these real quick and then kind of go from there. But nitrogen wise, we're doing great, and those look a lot better. And we still have a tiny little bit of fertilizer. We're down to 6%, but that means that we maximize the fertilizer that we bought this year, which is always a good feeling, to not have pallets and pallets sitting around the farm but know that we got pretty much the most out of it. Now, actually, that's going to be funny. Now that I've said that, we're not going to get a full strip down 18 probably, but that's okay. We'll just throw on what we can and then park this up for the winter, and then we can get some more in the spring if we need to. So running this back to the farm real quick. We're going to run through field 18, if I remember, spray out this last 6% of fertilizer, get that as close as we can, and then we will move forward with the cultivating, and then we're going to plant. And so I did ask in last episode what you want me to plant in field 33 and 34 and field 18 for that matter, to see, and we looked at a couple of different spring crops, including sunflowers, which make seed sense with the oil factory that I think we're going to buy, and possibly potatoes or sugar beets, something we haven't done before. I'm happy to do wheat and barley, but we'll probably do those on these two bigger fields. Oops, here's our turn. I almost forget this every time. I'm happy to do wheat and barley on field 36 or field 15 once we get the canola off of those, because then we could get 2 crops next year, or at least get our winter crop in. So I think that might be a better way to approach it. Would be to actually just use the existing fields for the wheat and the barley. So let's do something a little different on. Yep, and that's what I was afraid of. So we got this much fertilized. We didn't get the nitrogen down here. So we'll have to buy some more next year, but I'm not going to mess with it right now. So I'm going to drop this off at home, and then we'll go get that cultivation going at that interesting angle, which will be a little bit of fun. And yeah. But I'm leaning towards obviously sunflowers on one or maybe both 33 and 34, and then we could just do something like sugar beets on 18 maybe, where it's long, and so we don't have to do a lot of turning around with that harvester. But that's equipment that we don't have, but we can certainly look for in the sales for, or maybe try to get something. Oops, I'm looking through a wall. And now I'm looking through, see, I gotta zoom in. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and park this up here. So we got the cases together. All right, we're gonna come back down here. Or maybe we'll do sugar beets or something like that down here on these 2 fields, and just sunflowers on the other one. You know, and I'm just realizing we sold the planter because we were like, we're just gonna do the crops we have the harvester for. And now I'm talking about doing crops that we don't. So again, I haven't made any decisions on what we're wanting to do. I haven't seen a lot of comments on that last video either yet. So if you want to comment on what we need to be choosing for our crops for these fields, there's still time to get that comments in and influence kind of what we're doing here. I'd love to hear from you guys if you have opinions about that, because I'm honestly open. Like, if you guys just are fine with wheat and barley and those traditional crops, or maybe even corn, you know, yeah, let me know. I'd be happy to do those. But if you guys are wanting to see some other things too, I'm open to trying it on these smaller fields, because you know, you can do anything on a small field. Even if it's like kind of a longer, tedious process like potatoes can be, that shouldn't be too bad on these fields down here. And we've got the money for it. The nice thing about this setup so far has been we were given $1.5 million and all this equipment. So we can upgrade the harvester to have the right header for sunflowers, or we can upgrade the and get a bigger harvester, though I think it's going to be hard to get down these narrow roads back here, but I'm certainly willing to try and see. Oh, I'm missing a spot here. I gotta overlap more. I gotta remind myself to overlap more with this cultivator. So let's go ahead and fix this spot real quick. And then so we're looking at mainly 80 degrees up and then 160 or 260 coming back. So we're just like 10 degrees off center. But it's kind of like 81 here, which would make it 259 coming back. I think that's what we need to maybe look for. And again, I'm talking about the degrees on the mini map, because that's kind of, I don't have GPS or one of those course plotting mods because they're not available on console. Yes, I do play on the PS5. So the best way that I can do it is use that little compass and look at my degrees and try to line it up that way. Anytime you try to line it up just by sight alone, I feel like it always suffers just a little bit when trying to do that. So I tend to use, and I'm going to get some light on this just because I'm having trouble seeing where the exact edge is. But this is a nice, technically not a square, but just slightly off square diamond trapezoid. Is that the right term? I don't know. Slightly different shape field, which I find interesting. So that's a little more fun for me to give me an extra challenge to try to see if I can get this cultivated using these strips like so, which obviously I can. It's working without having to square it off. And sometimes I do have to square fields off just because I'm having trouble getting it lined up, or I'm having trouble seeing where I've been, and it's just easier if I can square that off with the degrees. But this one's not too bad because it is keeping that square shape. It's just rotated enough that we're off center a little bit. I find that refreshing, and just something to make it a little bit more interesting than running up 90 and 270 back and forth east and west across the map. So I don't know. Let me know if you guys are console players out there, what you use to kind of help line up. I assume you use the same things that I do, but maybe there's something different that you do. Whoops, still missed that whole section. So missed this whole little section here. I'm going to back all the way up so I can't see that anymore. And then let's look at the map. And we're over here now. And we're looking here. So I guess it's not too bad. It just looks like dots, but I can see it on here. The soil is a different texture. So we're going to go ahead and split that and smooth that out again. And what we're doing now is really working that fertilizer down into the soil to make sure that it's ready for our seeds to germinate in the spring when we get them planted. So, but yeah, tips and tricks are always nice to just hear what other people do when they play this game. Because again, there's a lot of equipment and you kind of have to learn what you like and what you don't like. But beyond that, there's 1,000 different ways to do everything. Like, you can prep the field in a different order. You can skip certain parts of the field prep if you don't want that 100% yield bonus, or if you want to try something different, or if you want to see if you can get all done in one day, or if you want to rotate your crops, or whatever you're trying to do. There's a lot available options, which obviously in real life farming there would be too. So I think that's what kind of keeps me engaged in the game is, now that I've used most of the equipment in one way or another, what keeps me engaged is like the jigsaw puzzle of, well, if I do this in March, then I can do this in April, and then I can do this in May, or what's the most efficient way to kind of approach that. Did I get off? Let's get squared up here. I keep the edge of my tires like right on where that line is to make sure I'm not overlapping too terribly much, or not unoverlapping. It's hard because with the lines going 90 and 270, it makes me feel like I'm turning when I'm not. So, but yeah, that's also why I watch other YouTube farmers as well, just trying to see what they're doing and what they think is successful for their farms, and just what kind of equipment they like to do. And I think that's what they tend to get excited about too. Not necessarily, oh, look at this new piece of equipment, although sometimes that is really fun. Like if you have, 40, 50, 60 hours driven on a tractor and then you're like, oh, I'm going to get something new and upgrade. That's a fun kind of conversation because you kind of earned it, in my opinion. You used that equipment to its fullest, and now you're going to kind of see what other piece of equipment can do the same things for you, or maybe do the same things and a little bit more. So new equipment can be really fun. Oh, it looks like I just missed that the whole row. We'll come back and grab that at the end, I guess. But just the strategy of, can I get it all done? What's the order I need to do it in? And then you're kind of fighting the weather too. This season's game is much more about, I gotta harvest in this month because that's the month where I harvest. And if you don't have it on 2-day months like I did in Riverview, then, if it just happens to rain on the last day that you can harvest your canola, because the canola wasn't ready in the first month that it could have been, then you're just going to lose that yield potential because it's going to rain all day. Or like if it's raining that first month, sometimes you get to the second month, so it's better to plant the first month that they're available and get through that cycle. But just kind of the strategy of, okay, I need to do this here, and I need to do this here, and I need to turn this into here, and then I need to get this production chain up and running so that I can get a better return on my investment here. And that's where precision farming comes in, because it tracks all that information for you. I played a lot before we had precision farming, and I was just like, well, I get a sense that this is where I'm at, or I get a sense that this is what I'm doing. 259.9 is not doing it. That leaves me with this wedge down here, which is unsightly, I'm going to call it. So I got to go to 250. Well, I mean, it was 259.9, so it was pretty much 260. I need to go to 259. I need to drop a full degree off that to not have this wedge appear down here, because that's not helping my field. What was I talking about? The challenge of the game, I believe, and kind of what keeps me coming back. And precision farming, I think, was the other thing. Yeah, just because it tracks all the stats for you. I had a good idea of, I think this is what I spent on that, and well, I guess we have more money now, and I guess we've paid off a little bit of the loan, so we must be heading in the right direction. Oh, you know what it is? I'm going to 81 down and 59 back, so I'm putting a 2-degree separation. So I think I just need to literally square up and do 80, like here, and then do 260 back. And let's see if that helps get rid of the wedge. I thought I had to go 1 degree one way and then a different degree the other way, but it would make sense if we're doing even numbers between 90 and 270, 80 and 60, 260 would make sense. So if I went to 59 on one, but 81 on the other, I'm actually putting in 2 degrees of error, which is why I'm getting that wedge. So I guess I was just doing the math wrong in my head there. So let's see if we get lined up right and we do it right at 260, we shouldn't have that part of the row that we've been missing on the last couple of runs. So get our wheels lined up with the edge, find our 260. Nope, you're 259. There we go. 259.9, 260, 259.9, 260, 260.2, 260. So yeah, I think this is going to work out a little bit better. And we're missing tiny little dots here and there, but I think that's just from the bouncing of the tractor. I think we could get rid of that if we overlap more, but then we'd have more strips. So I think I'm fine with the progress we're making on that. Will be interesting to see if we have spots that don't get planted because the soil was too compact from the plowing, and it wasn't smoothed out with the cultivator. So we will see what that looks like. Maybe we just need to overlap the wheels a little bit more, like so, but we definitely didn't leave a big wedge like we did the last 2 times. So I think, yeah, I just had my math wrong there. And it looks like more rain. Yay. Which is fine. We're just doing dirt work here. But I'm going to stop at the end of this row and check and see when that rain's supposed to come. I think we're going to get close to beating it, but at the same time, it is getting dark, I feel like, and it's only noon. So that leads me to believe the rain might be coming. So today in November, oh, yeah, 11, 12, 13, 14. Rain for 1 hour at 4 o'clock. That's not bad at all. I should probably not be turning around in these bushes. I should probably be doing a full 2 headlands, stopping early, and then squaring those off. So I guess since we're sitting here and doing this, maybe that's something we can consider. I don't know. Let's, nah, I'm not going to start that here. So 259, 260. So we're going to drop this down and run this back down the field this way, and we're just kind of finishing up the work here. So anyway, it's going to be more of the same for the rest of the field, and I know this field or this episode is running long, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Those always help the channel grow and get my content seen by more people, which I greatly appreciate. If you have not subscribed yet, please do. Again, that's just going to help my metrics and help the algorithm find my content and get it to more people. And lastly, any comments that you guys can give would be much appreciated, because I love talking to you guys and hearing back feedback from you on what you'd like to see in this series. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.